going towards that direction, which is kind of what my thought pattern was in doing this, is just introducing people to new ideas. Tonight I want to start bringing this up, this event called Myth and Tarot. So what my thought pattern was, or thought process is, and let me know what you think of this in the comments. And I want to introduce a different select group of mythological beings, and I'm picking from everywhere. There's thousands of them out there, so if you have someone that you're interested in, you've only heard of once or twice, let me know. Like I said, comment on the video here, or send me a message on my website. And what I want to do is go through a little bit of the history, a little bit about each of these creatures, and we'll do one creature each one of these streams, and we'll do a tarot reading for the group of creatures, just like a Celtic cross, so it's pretty generic, giving us a little insight into where they might be today. So if that's something that you might enjoy, then hop along for the an interesting first stream. And what I was thinking is, on the first and third Mondays of the month, doing Occult and Crochet, where we go over a real life figure from mystic tradition and religious traditions and all that. I'm going to do a little bit of everything on that one. And then on the second and fourth, we'll do this one, just kind of something more fun. Still a little bit educational, because you're learning about different supernatural creatures, but it's not formal, it's not serious, it's more just to enjoy the story. And so tonight I am going to introduce you to one that I may have mentioned before in a topic of the fairy, but this one is the Selkie, and it's spelled a lot of different ways. So how I have it in the thumbnail and the description is just one of the about 7 different ways you can spell this. So I think it's cultural, like where in the those little countries it is what the spelling is. I first heard about these creatures in a interesting romance novel. It's a guilty pleasure, but I enjoy reading, so that was one of the first places I read about it. And I did link it in the description, the first time I'd ever heard this term, but I will say it's the book Kiss of Shadows. It is racy, and I'm not talking about just a little bit. Gets a little graphic. And so I'm just saying that there are some triggers in there as well, so definitely not for the faint of heart. Just a heads up about that, because I don't want you to be like, ooh, it's a romance novel, and pick it up and be like, what in the heck? It gets a little interesting. So, but it talks about the Selkies at the beginning of the book, and then it gets really hardcore into the fairy realm. And yeah, you learn real quick that the fairies aren't quite what you always thought. The funny part is, the author of that book actually did her research on them, and she enhanced a few things, but from my research, not much. So, back to the story. If you are from the Celtic nations, Northern Europeans specifically, you may have been told stories about these creatures growing up. The word Selkie, in a general sense, means seal folk, as in, sea lions, but seals, ocean-going seals. It also can be a general term for a gray seal. The one thing that I found interesting is a lot of modern-day people want to say, oh, well, it's the Northern Isles version of the mermaid and the merman. Not in the slightest. Not even remotely. I mean, I guess you'd call some similarities, but they're not enough to say that they're the same. In the Northern Isles of Orkney and Shetland, the term is found fairly frequently, more so than other parts of the Celtic northern countries. They use a variety of different names, spellings of course, but for the most part the myths are kept to these northern European areas. The one exception I did find to that exclusion is tied to the Chinook people of North America. Apparently, they have their own version of a Selkie as well. And I couldn't find, in my digging around, I couldn't find exactly how they said their words, so I'm not even going to attempt it because, yeah, no. The Selkie is a seal. Can't find a good spot to put my drink. It's a seal that has the ability to become fully human for a time. In water, they tend to look like the great gray seals or another very large seal in water. But take the look of a beautiful woman, an extremely handsome man, or some random fairy when they're on the land. A Selkie, when in human form, carries what's called a seal skin. Basically, this is their form that they put on or peel off when they want to be in the water or on land. If they lose this skin, they can never return to the sea. Like, ever. When they're in the water, they have it on, and when they come out, they basically peel the mouth over their head. They step out of it like they're, stepping out of a robe or something. But then they hide it. Some legends say that they carry it in a backpack or a purse. It just kind of depends on, like I said, where you're at. A lot of times they would try to bury it along the coastal plains so that they could easily grab it and dive back into the water in case of an emergency. Lost my place. Legends vary on how long they can shift into human form. Some legends say they can only make that transition once every 7 years. And 7 plays a pretty prominent role in myths around the Selkies. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's some theories I'll get into later about where the Selkies came from. But the other legends will state that it can happen at each of the 8 primary Sabbats in the old calendar: Imbolc, Ostara, Beltane, Midsummer or Letha, Lammas, Mabon, Samhain, and Yule. There are other times as well, once a year on certain moons, and the legends really vary around this. Understand that if you're talking in a magical creature terms, the rules get a little fuzzy because magic doesn't work by our logic, and so there's a lot of variables in this. The stories really vary as to when they can appear, and the more common versions of the story is a man will suspect a beautiful woman is a Selkie. And he may suspect that because he saw her come out of the water or found her seal skin if she happened to have hid it somewhere. If he can actually steal that skin and hide it himself, the woman is basically bound to him since she can't return to the water without it. What's interesting, though, is through all versions of this story, and I scanned a bunch more today just to make sure that I wasn't missing something somewhere, because I've been building some of these ideas for a while. Every single one of them, the guy that snags the sealskin, for some strange reason, she's drawn to him, and she will never leave him until she will stay with him until she gets the sealskin back. And it's almost like a compulsion, like she knows that this person might know where her skin is, and she may end up marrying him, they may have a life, have kids, but there's something there that just she's like, I have to be here. It's not a matter of, oh, I love this person, it's a have to be there situation. And it's almost, to me, it strikes me as like her skin, part of her soul, is calling her, and so she stays with the person that has that similar vibration, because obviously he stole it. In this stealing legend, if she finds the skin, her wrath will be godlike, or she'll just disappear completely. Poof, gone, no more woman. And when she is wrathful, death is usually the result. There's one legend that describes a Selkie female finding her skin and being absolutely livid with the entire island and cursed the entire island. There is superstition on that particular island that continues on today because it has an unusually high number of deaths according to the superstitions of the modern world. So that's a little interesting there. And the reason that she wants the skin back is because her heart's not bound to land. It's bound to the ocean. And there's a couple of other stories that I've seen out there that say that the man will eventually feel guilt over the theft because he'll see her constantly pacing along the shoreline, standing on the cliffs, watching the waters. Her heart's not with him as much as he wants it to be. And so he will give her back the sealskin out of, like he loves her and realizes that that's never going to reciprocate. And in a lot of these versions, she flees back to the water where her heart lies and he never will be seen again. Other places, where am I at here? She will go back to the ocean for a period of time. Usually it's one Sabbath to the next, so about 2 lunar cycles, and then she'll come back to him and spend the time. Because a lot of the times, if she has had children or something like that, she still has that motherly instinct. So you've got this back and forth. Some legends say she just disappears, others say she goes on the warpath, and others she kind of finds a way to live in both worlds. And she'll do that as long as he is alive. When he passes, she'll never return to land again. Is one of the stories. And Selkies, being a magical creature, their lifespan is unknown, to really be honest with you. So this is one depiction of a Selkie female. I mean, she's peeling off her sealskin at this point. And we'll take that off real quick. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the male version. They are known to be extremely handsome, as in, like, the perfect male. They're usually fairly muscular, or they have a swimmer's build or something along those lines, but it's the type of look that will definitely catch your attention. While the female version is almost always kept on land through theft, like someone stole her sealskin, the males, which I found interesting, is there's no specific way to call a Selkie female, but there is a way to call the Selkie males. We'll pop a picture up here. Interesting ink drawing with this picture. Legend says that if you were to cry good luck with this, exactly 7 tears into the sea, there would be a male Selkie who would come to you for a lover. A defined time frame is not mentioned. It could be one night, it could be for as long as you need. A lot of the interesting aspects of the male version is they also will become exceptionally seductive towards women who are forlorn, who are lonely, who have lost a mate already, and it's not so much that they come there to be obnoxious, but there's something in their sorrow that catches their attention. And so they tend to, one of the words I saw was prey on these women, but it's not the same type of situation where you're being held against your will. They're just extremely attractive. They're only there for a couple of things, and then they're probably going to bounce. So you've got a different dynamic there. There have been reports that the males, once they're called through the 7 tiers, will stay on land just like the women will for a significant period of time, going back to the ocean now and then type of a thing. There's only 1 or 2 references that I ever saw where a woman stole the male's sealskin. There is some lore, and I'm not sure if I like this lore, but where a woman actually burned the male's sealskin to keep him with her, and it almost killed him because it's an aspect of his soul. So there's a lot of legend out there about these. For being such a unique and almost forgotten about outside of their culture creature, there is a rich amount of legend in their culture. Okay. A lot of these couplings between the human males and the Selkie females, and even the Selkie males with the human females, because they're magical creatures, tend to result in children. Some of the children are fully human. Some are human with odd features like webbed fingers and webbed toes, or thick, scaly, sometimes cracked skin that's prone to splitting. We would probably call it eczema or psoriasis today. But others were born with the ability to actually possess their own sealskin and allow them to return to the sea as well. Quite the surprise if the woman that didn't know that she'd bedded a male Selkie and found herself pregnant. Can you imagine popping out a kid with a secondary skin that mysteriously liked to dive into the water and disappear, for example? Some of these beliefs, and I have to put this in here just because gotta be upfront with people, some of these beliefs came from a time before our modern version of science. So some of these issues, like the webbed fingers, it could be from inbreeding, which did happen at the time. It could be from the other various birth defects. There's still people today born with the fully webbed fingers and webbed toes. And then, like I said, we today have psoriasis and eczema and a few other different skin issues that lead to looking like dried out leather. And these all are different things that, in this culture, they are believed to be Selkie breedings, whereas other places in the world it'd just be, you have some genetic issue. So theories of what Selkies really are and where they came from get interesting, to say the least. Some say that they have always existed from time. They were created at the dawn of the universe. Cool, I'm okay with that. Others believe that the Selkies are the souls of those who have drowned at sea. Someone washed away in a hurricane, boats sinking, things like that, and their soul basically comes back as a Selkie, and sometimes the soul will actually seek out its own family on the mainland, and that's where you'll start having these images of dead loved ones that have shown back up after a while, and people get spooked by that. So there are some other options here. There's also, and I call this because the wording of it in the modern day legends makes me think that this wasn't an OG story. There is what I call the Catholic Christian view, which it's the souls of the damned come to seduce the innocent youth to debauchery, and it's phrased like these creatures come out specifically to seduce young men and women and do horrible things, drinking and all this other stuff. The way that particular version of where Selkies come from is couched makes me think 100% that this was a way of the original church to banish this entire belief system out of existence. I get it, but it's not really accurate, and I mean, to me, it might be to somebody else, but to me it's not. Everything else about them says that they're either the souls who have passed away at sea, or they've always existed. This view that they're damned souls coming back to cause chaos and torture and all this other stuff, this has been a predominant theme amongst a certain group, so I don't put a lot of stock in that. That's me. And even today, amongst these islands around Orkney and Shetland, you still have tribes and villages around Ireland, Scotland, these other areas out there that claim to have connection to the seal folk or claim descendants from the Selkie clan, which I thought was pretty cool. The Selkies, all in all, are a mysterious piece of sea lore that has been kept in the northern European islands specifically for centuries. If you happen to be near the ocean, and you're up north somewhere and you happen to see a little gray head pop above the water, take care. It might just be a Selkie looking for a partner. So, move this. That's the brief history of the Selkies and kind of where they come from, what they do. A couple of images you got to see there about, their background and such. And part of what I want to do with these, and like I said, this is more of a for fun thing. We're not taking things seriously. We're just going to have a little fun. We will use the Celtic cross spread, and we'll do a simple reading just to see where the Selkies are, what influences are going on with them. If you've ever had the Celtic cross spread done, you'll know that it's kind of a general overview of life for a specific person or being or species or however it works for that day. I do not read cards in reverse, so they will all be read upright because that's how I work. And I am shuffling the deck right now. But yeah, I don't know, I just thought this would be kind of a fun way to introduce some of these other creatures that are out there. And I am only going to use authentic tarot decks for these readings because I want, even if it's the negative cards, I want them to show up so that we can actually see what's going on. And this is, like I said, the first stream like this, so we will test this out and see how anyone likes it. If you like it, great, and if not, well, we'll figure something else out. But for now, this is what I was thinking about doing on the odd nights that are not the other ones. Just like I said, I don't know, find a way to introduce people to something new in the world. Some Mondays we'll be learning about real life people who had some really interesting lives, and some Mondays we'll be learning about creatures from the mythologies. And like I said, if you have suggestions for either one of those topics, please feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you think, which people, creatures, and things you are interested in, because I will add them to my list. I know of a lot of them because I've been studying this stuff for a long time, but it's always good to have a fresh perspective. So let's look at the Celtic cross in the very first. So this is where they are at in the moment. It is the Eight of Chalices. And right off the bat, I'm sensing that there is some worry, some concern. They're in their element, obviously. Chalices are water, but there is some concern. It could be just the cold temperatures too, because it's that time of the year up in the north. But there's a little bit of worry. There's a worry for the future. The impression I'm getting is for their continuation of their species. Like there's just a little bit of concern about them still existing, and it could be just existing in the memories of mankind too. So the obstacle or challenge, what's crossing them, so in the spread it would be like this, is the King of Swords. So it's actually, I have to edit here. You've got this ending period, but you've got this very strong male figure coming in, and you've got the swords are air. So you've got this strong air influence coming in, and that's they're challenged. So they're being challenged by an air element. It could be a drying out period. It could be the colder temperatures, because mixing air and water will tend to drop the temperature. So there's this theme right here of being cold and also having some worry and some concern for the next generation. So let's look at their higher self influences. It's a tower. So they have some creative destruction going on. For them to survive, they have to be able to basically break down what's been and learn how to rebuild it into something better. So the tower is a creative destruction. You have to tear down the old to rebuild. So it could be that they are coming back into the common mind. It's not the word I'm looking for, but they're coming back into the awareness. There we go. Into the common awareness of people, and that's going to help them, recover from this loss of who they are in the future. So the subconscious or the underlying events is the Three of Wands, which is a looking to the future but being concerned. It's a burning desire, though, that they want to find a path forward. They want to find the future. They want to bring this into a more modern state. They just don't understand how to do that. Being water creatures, the land is not their favorite place, and this card is saying that they're looking for a way, and they have a passion inside of them to push forward. So that's a good thing. Their immediate past is the Seven of Chalices. And they used to have a heyday, and they are looking back to that heyday, and they're feeling fondness, and they're almost stuck there, is what I'm getting, what I'm hearing. So they're looking to the past going, oh man, those were the good old days. I just want to go back to that. They can't, it's the past, but that's where they keep looking. They're really focused on how nice the past was compared to the modern world. And their direct future, so this is the next step forward future, is the Four of Wands. Quick edit. And this is their part where they're asking for help. And it could be the fact that they're coming back into an awareness, into the common awareness. And maybe their stories are getting more spread out. More people are hearing about them through modern media, modern fiction. There's some links in the description for some interesting stuff. Like I said, there's the one book, but then there's a movie with Colin Farrell called Ondine, and it's an amazing movie. It's kind of slow, but there's a lot of feeling in it, and that's the reason I like it. And then there's a family movie as well down there. But what's interesting is when you start to look around, if you go back 20 years, you'll find almost nothing about the Selkies. You'll find a handful, like 3 or 4 references to them. But in the last 5 years, all of a sudden you're seeing this explosion. And so I'm wondering, my theory is on what we've got going on right here so far, is they're concerned for their future, and they're starting to reach out. The Four of Wands is working with others. It's a companionship, but it's a passion project. So they're reaching out to people, and they're starting to come back into the modern awareness. So let's look at their current attitude. It's the Six of Wands. Complacency, but with a little bit of fire behind it. They're feeling some complacency. They know that they're powerful in their own right, and they're kind of settled in that, and that's what's not helping them really because they are they need to be moving forward. They need to be projecting their culture, bringing their, even if it's mystical, metaphysical, whatever, but they're not bringing it into the front. They're leaving it where it is and saying, oh, we'll just keep doing the same thing. They're very complacent, and that's not going to work out so well for them if they don't, wake up a little bit more here. So for the next one, we have their environment, which is the moon. They live in the water. They are controlled by the lunar cycles. And so this card actually is an encouraging card, because even though their attitude is fairly complacent, just kind of whatever, they're worried about it, but they're not really going to work at it. This card's saying the moon, because of being the queen of the water, she is going to protect and guard them. She will lead them forward into this new future. There might be some struggles along the way, because there always is, but this is where she's heading with this knowledge. And so their hopes and fears. You have the King of Pentacles. There is a struggle. The masculine and the feminine are at war within the Selkie community, is what this is showing. It's almost like the males want to hold everything to this old style, but the females are like, no, we can, if we go over here, we can fix this, we can change it. And coming into an alignment, into balance. So their hope and their fear. She's looking forward with hope, saying if we work this way, we can, keep going. And he is afraid that going that direction may make them lose their authenticity, their uniqueness, and losing themselves into the modern world. And anyone who's looked around the modern world will know that that's not that difficult anymore. So the overall outcome for the Selkies is the Knave of Wands. And it's actually saying that there's some hope. It may not be exactly what they might want, and it might cause a little bit of rough waters over time, but the long-term overall result here is showing that with their passion, with their drive, their love is in the ocean. They have the support of the moon, so this will actually be something that'll work out in their favor, and maybe over time we might have a return of the mystical Selkies to the common mysticism. And who knows, the way the world's going anymore, we might actually step into a timeline where the Selkies, the dragons, the fairies are actually interacting with us. You never know. One can hope, right? So, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments section what you think. If there's something new you want, another creature you want to add, I've got a list of several already with a few outlines I'm going to flesh out in the coming weeks. I have a change of shift or schedule in my day job, so there may be some rearranging for my evenings. What my plan is Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday on YouTube and Odyssey. We'll see if I can keep up with that. But otherwise, let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this type of this video, please like the stream. If you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe. I really do appreciate it. The more people who subscribe, the more people YouTube obviously want to see this kind of content, and that will help the channel grow as well. And like I said, just commenting helps boost things too. I do read all of my comments, and I read my messages because I have gotten a few of those too. But other than that, I hope you guys have an awesome evening. Please be warm if you're in the north, because it's getting cold and snowy. We just got another 4 inches here. So I will talk to you guys in a future stream, and see you later.